Okay, so hi everybody. I am here with Allan Herron, who is a friend of mine and was a colleague of mine. And Alan has um, he's got this amazing music program for schools, and I wanted to bring him on today because I just wanted to share this with you all because I know that quite a lot of you are teachers, some of you are homeschooling. I just think if you know what Alan does and who Alan is, you will absolutely want this in your school. So, hi, Alan.
Hi, Jackie. Hi.
Hi. So, I think it might be interesting for people just to hear your background first, to hear about you, who you are, and how you got into becoming a music teacher and creating this program.
Yeah, so we met way back, must be coming up to 20 years ago, whenever I was a newly qualified teacher in Rome.
Yeah,
I just graduated as a teacher, and my first teaching job was in an international school in Rome.
yeah,
And it's kind of like being thrown into the frying pan when you're a newly qualified teacher. There's a very steep learning curve, a lot that you need to learn in a very short space of time. And I'd trained as a music specialist, so I was already coming from a place of some knowledge, shall we say, but I struggled as a newly qualified teacher. I struggled to find material. So I was teaching in the primary school, and I was struggling to find material that really helped me to deliver a music program. So what happened was most of the time I was making it up myself. I was just thinking, okay, what project are they doing at the minute? Let's do this, and let's try and tie it in with music, etc., etc. And I came to numerous stumbling blocks. And first stumbling block I think I remember doing or coming across was teaching notation, teaching how to teach children how to read music.
yeah,
And I struggled because children and black and white notes and traditional music notation, they just didn't seem to be able to access it particularly easy. And around the same time, I suppose 3 years into my career there, I came across a principle whereby animal images were attached to music notes. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And so I gave it a go, and I found that the children immediately latched onto it so much quicker than by using traditional music notation. Because if you think about it, traditional music notation, especially how we call the notes in English, crotchet, quaver, minim, semi-brief, to young children, especially 4 or 5 year olds, it goes way
it's
over.
different.
Yeah. I'll say play a crotchet, or don't you understand that two quavers form a crotchet? And they'd be like, no, because a lot of these children hadn't even studied fractions. So how are they even going to understand that, two quavers make up a crotchet? So I introduced this principle of animal rhythms. So a crotchet corresponds to a mouse, and a spider would correspond to two quavers. So if you think about it, it's inherently linked to their language
Yeah,
acquisition as well. And so a mouse would represent a crotchet, and spider would represent two quavers. And when you throw into the mix the imagery of this, so the fact that you put a spider on the board and children can actually see it, it makes it instantly more recognizable, colorful, and engaging than simple black and white crotchets and quavers. So that's a little bit of the background of where the music program was born, if you like. And then at that stage, I had absolutely no sort of inkling or no desire to turn it into a music program. I was just doing this for myself to make it easier for myself and to make something that was better accessible for the children. But it grew and grew and grew, and I started writing my lessons down. And at one point, a colleague said to me, she said, "Had you ever considered putting your lessons into a program and sharing them with other people?" And I said to her, no, I hadn't thought of doing it. So again, this was about 15 years ago, and I started writing it all down and put it into a book, and called in the help of colleagues to put it together and smarten it up. And then it was about 5 years ago, it was a very long process of
yeah.
gathering, refining, and then I suppose about 5, 10 years ago, I came up with this. So this is the music program. It's called Animarythm, and here you can see actually
Oh yes, yeah.
later.
Which
And
instantly is something that, children would gravitate to, isn't it? It just makes it so much more appealing.
yeah, the example that I give actually, there was, I suppose, about 5 or 6 years ago. It was day one in September, and we weren't doing music lessons because the children were settling in, getting to know their teacher, and I was on a playground duty. And I was sitting next to a whiteboard, and a little boy came up to me. He was naturally curious. I was just doodling on the board, and I was drawing some music notes, and he was naturally curious. He said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm writing music." And I drew a crotchet like that,
Yeah.
and two quavers and a pattern, two semiquavers and a quaver, and four semiquavers. And I drew some animals, very basic animals, on the other side of the board. And I pointed to the crotchet to this. And this was a 4-year-old boy who had never studied it before. And I said to him, "Can you tell me which animal that would be? Which of these four animals?" And he looked and he thought to himself, and you could see the cogs were turning in his head. And he's like, "That's a mouse, that's a spider, that's a ladybird, that's a caterpillar." And he got it. He got it straight away. He said, "That's a mouse." I said, "Yeah, it is." And I pointed to those two notes and I said to him, "Which animal do you think that is?" The two quavers. And he looked at it, and you could see him, and he was going like, duh, 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 because he had already been studying phonics in class.
Okay.
They'd already been talking about syllables because the principle is very closely
Yeah.
to syllables and to phonics, and he worked it out. He worked it all out beautifully.
Nice.
And then I wrote a whole series of notes on the board of crotchets, quavers, etc., etc. And I said to him, "Okay, shall we clap it together?" And we did. And we stood there or sat there and we went mouse, spider, ladybird, caterpillar. So that child, that 4-year-old child, having never been taught music notation before, he was able to work it out himself within the space of about 5 minutes. That's one of the things I'm constantly surprised by, that this program is it's so inherent, so instinctive for the children that they really don't even need to be taught it. They can tell me stuff before I've even told it to them. So yeah, it's a good program. Anyway, so I've rambled on. That was supposed to be the introduction. I've rambled on for
No, I think we just go wherever this takes us. But I think, like speaking for myself as a child who had piano lessons and just with the music, just with the notes.
Mm-hmm.
But I had numbers, so rather than I didn't have animal, I had numbers above mine to so where my fingers would go and all the rest of it.
Oh yeah.
But as soon as I took the numbers away, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'd done something like this, it'd be amazing, because actually maybe I'd be able to play the piano and I'd be a musician, or at least music would be more in my life as in terms of me playing.
Yeah.
And I just think, children. When I'm at school, I'm hearing children humming all the time. They're always sort of singing, humming a tune.
Yeah.
They love music.
Mm-hmm.
So something like this is amazing.
Music it's such an important part, such a fundamental part of children's psyche. So it's there. It's just about accessing it. And I think us as teachers, as educators, therein lies the challenge, if you like. It's about helping to bring that to the fore. So what started off as a series of lesson plans for my benefit then turned into the book. And actually, if I screen share, I can show you what the book looks like. So the book is available in PDF format. So this is the book, and it's also available as in the physical version that I showed you. So this is, I was saying, yeah, it started off as a series of lesson plans, and then I thought, okay, well, this might be useful for other teachers. So I kind of started with the introduction, putting a little bit of the theory behind it, because most music that's taught in primary schools these days is taught by non-specialists.
Yeah.
And so I kind of recognized most primary school teachers don't actually feel particularly comfortable teaching music because they feel like it's beyond their skill set, or they don't know enough about it, or there's stigma attached to it, or no, I'm not musical. So this book really aims to debunk that and show that actually music teaching is not that difficult. In fact, I've done teacher training in the past, and the first thing I said to them, the only way you can teach music wrong is by not teaching music.
Nice.
And I really believe that, because too
Yeah.
many schools and too many teachers just think, oh no, that's way outside of my comfort zone, I'm just not going to do it. And then it ends up just getting pushed to the side. And that's such a shame. I mean, if you do nothing else, stick on a CD and do some singing, or get some instruments out and, play some percussion. It's not as scary as it seems. And I think this book aims to debunk it, if you like. So the idea is that, there's the animals there, the explanation of the mouse and the spider and the caterpillar and the ladybird, and you can see the images. It's incredible because, if you look at a black note like that, it's not necessarily particularly memorable, if you like. It's not going to stick in the psyche of a 4 or 5-year-old.
No.
Whereas a mouse does, and it helps just to make it instantly memorable. I can teach a lesson with these animals, and I come back the next week and the children have memorized it, and I just think,
that's very lovely. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine why. It is.
Yeah, and so it's progressive. So it starts with 4 simple rhythms, and then it becomes gradually more complicated. And the children love this idea of progression, that they start with one animal and they add one animal, not necessarily every week, but every couple of weeks, and it creates a sense of excitement. They'll say to me, "When are we going to fly? When are we going to learn the yeah, when are we going to learn the snail?" And yeah. Some music specialists have said to me, so when do you start teaching the traditional notation? And I said, well, usually that happens quite organically, because, a child will come in who has heard something and they'll go, oh, Mr. Herron, do you know that a mouse is actually a crotch? And I'll go, yeah, you're absolutely right. So there's no reason why these terms can't coexist next to each other. But this is, as I said, it's a really good a way of engaging the children. So this is what a teacher, for example, who gets the book, what they would get out of it. So it's designed to be so simple. You have your learning intention at the top, some very basic instructions, the resources that they're going to need, and notes directed to the teacher and how they can assess it. So it's designed to be very, very easy to follow, that teachers can put these lessons together. And because I understand that teachers don't have a lot of time to prepare their lessons.
Yeah.
And music teachers don't either. So they're not going to spend 45 minutes gathering stuff up and gathering resources and materials to teach a half-hour lesson. It's just not going to happen. So the idea is that these lessons are super easy to put together, and quite cheap to resource as well. Question I've had in the past is, well, how expensive is it to run? What kind of resources do I need? And actually you can do it with very simple resources, a couple of £100 invested in instruments, which will last for years.
Yeah.
And they can put together a very effective music program. And the idea is that all the resources are here. For example, I've got some little playing cards with the corresponding names, that everything is here, so that the teacher can just go to the photocopier, whip them out, and then, hey presto, the lesson is there and ready, everything that they need.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's how the book started. And it was actually thanks to the pandemic that I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna need to take a different approach here. And so I started to digitalize everything, and stepped outside of my comfort zone a little bit. And I created a website, which I can show you, I think. So the website has the book itself, so you can download a digital copy, and it also has a bunch of free resources as well. It has resources for teachers, and it's also got resources for pupils. And I thought to myself during the pandemic, the example I use is and it's also a way of making it more accessible to teachers. Not all teachers have the time to sit down and work out how to teach a lesson. So the example I often give is, if I want to make scones, for example, I tend not to go to a physical book these days. I tend to go to YouTube.
Yeah.
So following that principle, I decided to make, tutorial videos for each of the lessons.
Oh, brilliant.
And similarly, if I go onto YouTube and I see a scone recipe that lasts for 15 minutes, I'm going to go, I'm not going to sit down and watch a scone recipe for 15 minutes. I want it to be 2 or 3 minutes max.
Yeah.
And so I followed that principle, and for each of the lessons, I created a tutorial video. Let me see if I can find them. A tutorial video, and they all last 2 or 3 minutes max. So they're really short, sharp, punchy. This is what you do. This is how you do it. And yeah, just to make it really no nonsense and really accessible. This has been quite slow, but the lessons are all there.
And presumably these are only accessible once you've got the membership.
Yeah, so a certain amount of them are free, just so that obviously people can come onto the website and download the free portions, the free portion of the book, the free tutorials, the free pupil resources. I should have said there are pupil resources in here as well. So they can download them, try out the program and see if they like it, see if it's something that works well for them. And then obviously then they can subscribe to the whole thing and get the whole shebang. So yeah, there are about 40 lessons in there. Yeah, my screen sharing is being very slow, but yeah, if that's the website, animarythm.co.uk, and that's where you'll find everything. I'll stop sharing now because I think it's making
I'll put actually after the when we finished, I'll put all of your links in the comments.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so the website, just to reiterate, it has link to the book where you can download the book. It has links to the associated audio tracks. So quite a lot of the lessons have audio tracks.
Yeah.
And it has links to the pupil resources. So in addition to in-lesson activities, there are resources that the children can use at home as well to reinforce what they've been learning in class. And yeah, a bunch of other stuff. So it's designed to be sort of a pretty comprehensive course. Now, the only thing, interestingly, it doesn't really cover, it's not an extended singing program. It does have singing in the course, but it's not an extended singing program. It's designed principally around practical music making. And actually, in the book, every chapter is color coded according to the colors of the rainbow. Just
nice.
Happen to be like that. And each of the lessons is color coordinated. And the reason for that is, as well as being a progressive program, it's to ensure variety within the program, so that the children don't get bored. You're not always doing the same thing. So yeah, the different lesson categories are: the red is getting started, the orange is the elements of music, yellow is patterns and sequences, light green is rhythm and movement, dark green is singing and listening skills, blue is instrumental skills, and then purple is creativity and composition, which is so important. I think we're all, as educators, we're really mindful these days of how important it is to develop children's creativity.
Oh, absolutely. Sorry.
Just let them express themselves. So
yeah, I think creativity is I mean, because these schools do not have music teachers anymore, and I think creativity has definitely diminished in schools. I feel even more so they need to have things like this coming into the schools to bring that creativity and to allow children to express themselves through all the different avenues, and music is such a powerful one.
Yeah, it's quite a big topic of discussion at the minute amongst music educators, especially, is how we teach composition and how we give children the tools to really express themselves. And actually, I was doing it yesterday in a reception class. It just happened to be a reception class, and we've been talking about mouse and spider and ladybird and caterpillar, and I just gave them a sheet and I said, well, you know what the animals are, you know how to draw them. And these 4 and 5-year-old children were coming up with their own little compositions and then playing them on percussion instruments. Even I was impressed, and I've been using this program for 20 years. I was like, whoa, it's actually it's very good. Yeah. And it's, yeah, as I said, it's just such an accessible and easy to follow. And
yeah, I was going to say, you've made it incredibly easy. You've put every thought into it as to how you can make it really accessible to any teacher, whether they've got any musical background. And the fact that in your training you're taking the fear away, because I think that's the problem, isn't it? When teachers are told, right, you're going to be doing the music.
Hmm.
And there's that fear of like, well, I don't know, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah,
This takes it all away, makes
that's
anybody be able to do it.
that's been one of my principal aims, really, is to make it accessible to non-specialists. Specialists will get a lot out of it as well. I've got a lot of music specialist colleagues who use it, but the one of my principal aims, given that music is mostly taught by non-specialists, was to make it accessible to non-specialist music teachers. You know, people who have some experience, or maybe people who have no experience whatsoever. They all should be able to, get a good deal out of this
Yeah.
program.
And
Uh,
so what age have you set this for? What age of for children?
Good question. Yeah, I was going to come on to that. So I've mostly referred to primary school children. So,
Yeah.
but the good thing is that I've just started working in a new school where they obviously haven't used this program at all, and I've pretty much started from the beginning of the course with year one, year two, and year three, and they're all getting something out of the same lessons. And you think, okay, so there's an element of you need to differentiate, because what a 4-year-old can cope with and what a 7, 8-year-old
Yeah.
can cope with are very different things. Yes, but there's a certain amount of the lessons are open-ended enough that the children can really take the content of the lessons and really run with it.
Yeah.
So this program, I would say, principally runs from age 3. 3-year-olds will still get a lot out of it, 3, 4, and can go right the way up to the end of primary school. So children 10, 11, 12.
Amazing.
And yeah, just thinking about that, actually, I've got a funny anecdote. When I was teaching in Rome with you, there was a junior school and a senior school, and in
Yeah.
senior school they did GCSE music, and a new music teacher came into the senior school, and they were doing listening exercise in preparation for their GCSE exam, and they had to listen to a piece of music and they had to write it down. They had to write the rhythm down. And the music teacher said to me later on in the day, and he said, "What's this all about spider and mouse and caterpillar and ladybird?" And I said, "Oh, that's how I used to introduce rhythm in the junior school." And he said, "Because it's still in there." He said they were all sitting, listening to the music and tapping out mouse, spider, ladybird, caterpillar. And that was at age 15, 16. And that was just such a lovely moment for me, because it just showed how the children had absorbed it,
Yeah.
and then taken it even beyond primary school and applied it to what they were learning even in preparation for GCSE, which was a really lovely moment for me. I just thought, yeah, no, this is good.
Nice. Really nice. Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it, when you get feedback like that? It's just
Yeah, yeah.
because I think you also told me that you had given it to other teachers to trial it,
Yeah.
so that you could see before you went out into schools and stuff to do it, that
Mhm.
actually it was working. So what can you just give us a bit of feedback for how those teachers
Yeah.
found it?
Yeah, I've trialed it in 4 or 5 schools so far, a variety of different settings. One of them is an international school. One of them is a state primary school. One of them is an independent primary school. So I really wanted to
Mix.
get sort of like a 360-degree viewpoint
Yeah,
as to how the program would fit into each setting. Um, yeah, the feedback has been universally positive from both non-specialist and specialist teachers. I went into one school and I did a training session with about 10 teachers who were all teaching in reception, early years, and key stage 1. And I did a training session of about an hour and a half, introduced the program to them, and did some practical activities with them as well. And yeah, the feedback was wonderful. Some of the feedback is on the website about how the program just made it more accessible. And as you said, took away a lot of the fear and just made them really excited about teaching music, because they realized that they actually could do it, that it wasn't as scary or as intimidating as they had thought. So yeah,
yeah.
the feedback has been amazing, actually, which is why now I'm really keen on getting it into more schools and getting it out there into the wider world.
Well, I mean, I think it should be in every school because it just makes music I'm not saying that there aren't other school programs that aren't
Mhm.
on or anything, but this one it's so well. You've been doing it for so many years, and your heart is just so in it. It's just it would be amazing to get it into every school, which is why I think, doing something like this, and having an interview so that people can really get a feel for you, get a real feel for what your intention was with this, and just how easy and accessible it is for teachers and children. And
Yeah.
also, like, I'm thinking as well, because there's quite a big homeschooling community now, and
Mhm.
obviously, music is really important for all children, well, for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, I guess this is equally accessible to somebody who is homeschooling.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been at the forefront of my mind that this should be accessible to all children, no matter what kind of educational setting they're in, an international school, state school, independent school, special needs school as well.
Yeah.
Taught special needs children who have really responded really well to the program. Obviously, at a slower pace, if you like, but they get a lot out of the program. And also children with EAL, so children who are not mother tongue English, get a lot out of it as well because the terminology is so accessible. What I always say is, a 3-year-old, 4-year-old wouldn't be able to tell you what a crotchet is, but they would be able to tell you what a spider is because it is it, if you like, it links with their inherent language acquisition and this whole idea of the syllables as well. Just you're making it more cross-curricular. You're presenting it across different disciplines, if you like, the reading, the writing, the language, and just it makes it more holistic, I guess.
Yeah.
And yes, it would certainly be accessible to children who are homeschooled as well, because again, with the assumption being they may or may not be, the parent may or may not be a music specialist, but again, it would be accessible to
Yeah.
everyone. And as I said, all the resources are there. Every sort of like poster and little flashcards, they're all in the
I
book.
saw that. I mean, it's just incredible that you literally have, like, they have absolutely everything that they need except for the musical instruments, which, like you said,
Yeah,
if they invest in,
yeah,
200. And I think, actually, to be honest, most schools that I've been to, I think they do have,
yeah.
they do have their musical instruments. They just don't necessarily have the person that's going to do anything with them.
Exactly. Most primary schools will have, a collection of musical instruments, mostly gathering dust on the
Yeah.
shelves. Yeah, hopefully this will give them the confidence and the impetus to get them off the shelf and get started. But yeah, just talking about the resources. Yeah, there's a poster that you can cut out and put up on the wall. That poster is great actually because it gives the children something to look at in the
Yeah.
classroom. And again, whenever we come to the next animal, they're like, "Well, I already know this," and I'm like, "How do you know it?" Because it's up on the wall. And yeah,
Yeah.
all the assessment grids, because obviously how we assess music it's difficult, but again, it's all in here. My suggestions and things that I've learned over the years that work for me and hopefully work for other people. And there's an audio guide for all the musical excerpts that are used in there. So
I mean,
yeah,
it's jam packed with all of your years and years of experience. It's amazing.
yeah, it
So
is.
if a school got in touch with you, um, what would it look like for them then? Would you do a training with them, presumably, and then
Yeah,
they
exactly.
run with it?
There are various options essentially. So today, if they were interested in sort of like presenting it to their music specialist, say, here, have a look at this and let me know if it's something you'd like to have a go at. They could go to the website and they could download the book, and um, they could go onto the website, download the book, and sign up as a subscriber, at which point they would get access to the training videos. They would get access to all the musical excerpts and resources, pupil resources, etc., etc. So that's sort of like the first step, if you like. And then subscribers also have the possibility of an online training session that I can do via Zoom. And they also have the possibility then of face-to-face training session, which is what I did in that other school. I did a twilight training session with the early years and Key Stage 1 teachers. So it was like an hour and a half after school on a Wednesday evening. And obviously Zoom is great because it allows anybody to access any school in the country, but actually there's something very nice about face-to-face training as well, which also makes it more hands-on, more tangible, and everybody can get stuck in and really experience the program from a very hands-on point of view, which is important, because if the teachers experience it, then it makes it much easier to pass on that knowledge and those skills to their pupils. So yeah, there are various options, starting with the access to the website up to face-to-face teacher training, if you like.
Yeah, so they've got the option, but an hour and a half, that's incredible. Yeah. That's not very much, because I know that teachers are always worried about time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so an hour and a half is not a lot to learn.
No, it's not. I was talking very fast, much like I am today, but absolutely, a half-day training would allow me to go into far more depth and really present it, the entirety of the program in an hour and a half. I was really only able to scratch the surface, if you like. And then obviously there's the option of me revisiting to see how the program is progressing and see how it's being taught, and give the teachers encouragement and say, okay, have you thought about trying this, or have you thought about accessing this aspect of it? I think one of the beauties of this program is it's not too prescriptive, which some people might think, well, you're not putting it all out there. But I found there are some music programs which were so detailed, so prescriptive, that one, it would take me 45 minutes to read the lesson plan. And at the end of the lesson, I would come away and I would refer back to my lesson plan. And I think, oh, I didn't do that, or, oh no, I didn't do that, or I didn't do that. And that, as a teacher, sets you up for failure, I think. And it puts you off when you feel like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. So the idea with this program and how I've set it out is that there's enough information there as a great starting point, and enough signposts, if you like, but then I've left enough space at the other end that if the teacher decides to, based on what a child is doing in the class, decides to go off in a tangent, there is complete flexibility to do that. And it's one of the joys of teaching music, actually. Nobody is standing there going, oh, you did this right, or you did this wrong, or but you didn't do that, you didn't do that. Well, it shouldn't be like that. It's a creative subject, and we have absolute freedom and flexibility to go wherever we feel like going. And so that's why,
that's really nice, because then it's almost like child-led as well, isn't it? So
absolutely,
it's teacher-led. It's because I think that's that's a frustration. It is lovely to see where children take things. Like, it is lovely to see their creativity and where they want to go with things. So if that's what this does, I mean, well, for me, that's just amazing.
Yeah, no, it's I see that as so important. This is not a program that teaches the children to learn Three Blind Mice on the Recorder. That has its place, but it's not a particularly creative discipline, if you like, playing Three Blind Mice on the Recorders. If you've got 20 children all doing the same thing, well, where's the creativity in that? Whereas this program is so open-ended and can take you off in that direction, it can take you off in that direction. So really it is, and those are the beautiful moments as a teacher, when you do have a child that, I mean, it still happens to me, where the children are teaching me something and I'm like, I've never thought of it like that, or I hadn't thought of that, or I never would have realized that you could do it in that way. And that's really one of the light bulb moments as a creative teacher, whenever a child comes back to you and gives you something that you've never thought of as well, and then obviously you share it with the rest of the class as well. It's a really beautiful moment.
And then therein lies the beauty, like you said, the pressure is taken off the teacher, because it's almost like you're like, obviously you've got a thing to follow, but if you can see that the children are coming out with something else, how lovely to be able to follow that. That's lovely. That's just amazing. Because I love, like with what I do with children, I love what I get back from them, because it blows my mind where their imagination, where their creativity takes them. And I just don't feel personally that we give children that freedom to be creative. it's amazing what you find out about these little people just through their creativity and their imagination and where it all takes them. So yeah, I love the fact that that's part of the lesson, is sometimes we'll just go with them.
Go with the flow, go off on a tangent. Yeah, as I said, that's the essence of creative teaching, I believe. You give the children the tools, give them the little starting blocks and say, okay, over to you. Here you go, and see what you can come up with. And 11 times out of 10, they'll always come back with something that you, as an adult, as a teacher, had never ever thought of. And it's fantastic. Those are really inspiring moments when the children.
And I think that while these children are so creative and they've got all of that, like, we really need to be nurturing that. We really need to be sort of, you know, encouraging this creativity, this, you know, and this obviously ticks that box big time. It makes me want to go and be a music teacher now at school.
Do it.
It's rubbish at music.
No, there's no such thing.
Great singing.
No such thing as being a rubbish music teacher, as I said.
No, obviously not. No.
The only way you can be rubbish at it is by not doing it. So if you're doing it, you're already an effective music teacher, because you're giving the children the opportunity to be creative. I mean, it's very exciting.
Well, I'm really glad that we've done this. I'm really glad that we can, you know, let people know about it. I'll be sharing the video far and wide, because I think this, you know, it should be in every school, personally.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. You can see once I get started, it's hard to get me to stop talking about
but that's also the beauty of it, because there's that passion that is, you know, and you've been doing this for so many years and you've been wanting to get it right. You know, you've given it to so many people to trial, so that when you do, now that you are getting it out there, you know beyond a doubt that this works on many levels. And so why wouldn't a school go for, I mean, why wouldn't they? They should, and they will.
Thank you.
So thanks, Allan. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to make contact?
Pop onto the website, animarythm.co.uk, and my contact details are on there. I forgot, just as a final aside, the reason why it's called Animarythm is rhythm is the building blocks. Anima, you probably remember from our time in Rome, not only refers to the animal characters, but also anima is the Italian word for soul. So this is why I called it Animarythm, because I feel like music is such an inherent part of our and children's souls. So this is why I called it Animarythm. But yeah, if they pop onto the website, my contact details are there.
Okay, and like I said, I'll because I'll put this onto Facebook and YouTube, so I'll put in the comments there all of your the website, because if they just go for the website, then they can and then let me know if you get any response from this.
I will.
Thank you, and
thank you.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. Okay.
See you soon. Bye.
Okay.